What is up, you guys, and welcome back to Growing Upstairs. We're so glad you joined us today. Now to your hosts, Noah and Holden. What is up, everybody? Welcome back into the podcast studio.
Is that applause?
Yeah, I put it in there with it at the
Nobody's
same time.
ever clapped for us before.
I know, it was awesome. You want to have some more of it? Check them out
We'll
right
do it
here.
one more time.
Thank you. Thank you.
You
Thank
guys
you.
are the best.
I'm telling you, what a crowd. What a great crowd. Hey, we're glad to be back in the studio here today. It's kind of an exciting, somewhat bittersweet kind of an episode because this is going to round out season 2. This is going to be our season 2 finale.
Season dos.
2 seasons already in the books. It feels like we just started this like a year ago.
Yeah.
Mainly because we just started this like a year ago is the main reason. Hey, we're glad to have you guys here. Glad to bring another episode to you guys. Noah here. If you've never watched us, never seen us, never heard of us, that's Noah.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Holden. And,
That's Holden.
And I'm Holden. And where can they watch us, listen to us, all of the things before we kind of jump right into things? Noah?
They can watch us on YouTube. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Glad you get to see us.
Yeah.
But they can also find us on social medias, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok now.
Yeah.
We are on TikTok. Made that announcement a little while back. Also can just listen to us. If you want to just listen to the podcast, you can check it out pretty much wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you enjoy listening to us talk. For some reason, you like to listen to us talk, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem with that at all. I had forgotten we were on TikTok. I'm glad you reminded me of that because had you not reminded me, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, we're on TikTok. Probably need to put another video or two over there. But if you guys have followed us there, we appreciate it. Just kind of keep looking out because we'll continue to put some content out there. Even though season 2 is ending, we'll try to kind of keep some activity going for the next season that'll come out at some point in time. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But Noah, we have a guest for our final episode of season 2, a special guest,
Very
some would
special
say.
guest.
I'll let you introduce him for us.
We are very glad to have our new pastor here at First Baptist, Brother Derek Milton. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here.
He's getting more applause than we are.
I know he got a long applause.
Yeah, that's shocking when you say the pastor. No, it's good to be here. I've been following you guys for a little while, and even before I got voted in, I started following the podcast and different things and checking it out. I was like, all right, these guys are pretty cool. We got some good stuff around here, so it's pretty neat. Well, my wife actually asked me not too long ago. She said, do you think you'll ever get on there? So I don't know. I'm probably not worth material for that.
I know. Well, we're glad to have you here and excited to get to talk to you today about. Well, we'll figure that out when we get to it. You know, we're just winging this thing anyways. Isn't that how most people do it? You just wing it right. Wing right into it. Well, again, we're appreciative for you coming on because I do think there are some people that are like, I don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of get a little intimidated by it. It's a lot of fun to me. But, I mean, I can sit and talk to myself all by myself sometimes as long as I don't answer myself, right? Right. Yeah, right. Anyways. All right. Well, I do have a couple of questions for you here as we kind of get started so we can kind of introduce you into it, but also you can kind of tell the people, and also we might learn a thing or two from it, asking you some of these questions as we get started, if you're okay with it.
Sure.
So, first off, where did you come from?
Well, long answer, the short answer. Yeah. No, originally American. Yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah.
Actually, I was grew up kind of around. I grew up in Thomasville, but I was adopted at the age of 6. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas, actually.
Oh, wow.
And lived about, I think, 1.5 years, 2 years in Germany. My parents were military people. So I guess I kind of lived abroad for a little bit.
Yeah.
Had an extent over there. And then I was adopted at the age of 6. I have a younger brother who was adopted with me. And he was 2 at the time. And so he was born in Savannah. I was born in Texas. And then Lord just brought us to a good Christian home. My dad was a pastor. Both parents, he was bivocational pastor. Both parents are pharmacists and things. And just grew up in church, been in church my whole life, and just kind of in this area. So not too far from
Yeah,
Thomas was just right down the road. So.
Not too far at all. As I kind of asked a question, I was like, maybe I should have been a little bit more specific. But where did you come from? But anyways, so like we said off the top there, you are now. What do you want to be called? Like pastor, preacher? I know everybody kind of has a different.
Fine. I mean, it's a senior pastor, which I guess technically is the job description, but pastor's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody asked me the other day, "Do you want us to call you Pastor Derek, Brother Derek?"
Yeah.
Pastor Milton, I was like, just call me Brother Derek. That's fine, I'm still getting used to it right now myself.
I know I still have times where I look at Gramps and I go, "Hey, what's up, Brother Chad?" And he's like, "What?" I think I even get to the point now where I'm like, that is a little bit more complicated. All right, a couple more questions for you here. What was your call into ministry? I know you said you kind of grew up in church all your life, so that it may have been something as simple as that, or was there ever a point where you were like, "No, I want to get into ministry"?
Well, I grew up in ministry. Like I said, my dad was a bivocational pastor. I grew up in church my entire life. I was always involved with the youth stuff and all growing up. And probably by the age of 16, I really felt God was calling me to ministry. At 7, I accepted the Lord. About 14, I kind of realized, hey, I really didn't quite get it at that age. And God just kind of started working at me at 14. And about 2 years later, after kind of still working through that, he just kind of developed me more and more and just felt a call to ministry. Now, student ministry was my calling. That's, I told myself, I told my wife, and anybody that asked, I was going to be like Chad. I was going to be an old man with a walker doing student ministry, my entire life. And so that's kind of, when I started, I went off to college and played baseball up there and, I was doing that. And so I kind of made myself say, okay, my ministry, even God, you're telling me student ministry, but my student ministry, I'll be a history teacher. I'll coach baseball. I can still do ministry that way, No, that wasn't his plan. I pitched one time too many and I barely can throw today. My shoulder hurts every now and again, but, I say all that because it was God pulling me out of what my comfort was, what I was trying to do, and say, no, this is the plan that I have for you. This is where the path I want you to go on. And so he just led me that way and been doing I did student ministry for 15 years. And just within the last 3 years, I've just, of course, my wife tells me all the time, I knew you were going to be a preacher. My former pastor, he said after about 6 months, I was going to be a preacher. He knew I was going, but I was still in that running phase. I was like, no, I can't, because not that I was afraid of being a pastor, but watching my dad be a pastor and I'd seen that stuff, what a church does, and know a lot of other pastors and stuff. And, but the other thing is just like, okay, God, this is my heart. This is what I want. I know you have a purpose for your church. This is where I have you're dealing in my heart. I want a church that's doing the same thing, and meeting with the pastor church committee and talking and praying and things like that. I mean, because we had talked to a couple of other churches and, it's just it just wasn't there. God wasn't leading it, and so he just opened that up opportunity, and we stepped in it, and it's just, I mean, Chad's been great. The staff here's great. Church is great. I mean, so I've really enjoyed the services. I think the Lord's really doing some moving and stuff, and so
absolutely.
We can definitely tell, like I started that series off when I first got here, it's all been but God moments.
Yeah.
I mean, God has just opened it up. And I mean, my mother-in-law even sent a letter thing to me and my wife the other day because she wrote down a list of all the but God things that he did in that process, like 3 pages long. Because, deep down, she was like, y'all need to be doing this. And we're like, we got stuff to do. We don't have time to be writing stories and stuff. But she did it for us. And going back and reading, I'm just thinking, man, that was God's hand in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, and I know Noah and I a lot through this podcast. We've had a lot of those moments kind of hit too, to where even in the middle of a message, whether it's a guest speaker that comes or even now as you've come in, we still see those moments even in preaching and stuff that come up, and it's like, oh man, that's cool, and it's always funny how it ties back together. I think Noah and I I think it was me and Noah. We were joking when, like, you had first come on the first couple of weeks, and you and Gramps were kind of hanging out, and you'd come upstairs, and we're talking to all of us, because the upstairs is obviously the youth group here. And you were like, all right, I'm headed down to, I think it might have been the prayer meeting down there. And we left and went to pick up a couple of the girls for youth, and it was like, if anybody just met our now pastor and our youth minister, they would say, "Oh, okay," they would get them completely back. You guys completely backwards.
Yeah, we're actually we're going to a convention in November, and I had to. Which I don't know why I didn't already, but we were here for like 3 weeks before we actually joined the church. And he told me, he said, you actually have to join.
I forgot about that.
You actually have to join to be able to go. And I said, oh yeah, so we did that. And he said, I'm just waiting. And we've both been talking about. He's like, well, I'm just waiting for us to get up there and then be like, oh, so you're the senior pastor?
Yeah,
And be like, no, it's opposite.
You got it backwards. And they're gonna look at y'all. They're gonna be like, you are pulling my leg. That is not the case. Well, you kind of answer one of my other questions, asking kind of how have things been here at the church. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some of your answers there to me kind of answered some of that, but you can answer it deeper if you'd like to as well.
It's been going good. Like I said, we definitely know God called us here, and for us, that's the big plus of it. It's not something that we were putting ourselves saying, hey, this is what we want to do. It's First Baptist. We want to, this was a call of God. But just getting here, God's already starting to move. Yeah. I think our third week here we had 7 baptisms, and then we had one right after that the next week, and some new families are coming in, and things are growing, and it's just, it's all for God.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been from day one, just like, all right, let's hit it running, and let's go. So it's been really cool to be a part of. So.
You mentioned the pastor search committee earlier, and being on the other side of the pastor search committee team, helping with that. We definitely could feel that the Lord was leading it as well. Yeah. It was just definitely ordained. Every single step of the way, it was like the doors just kept opening and opening, and it just fell into place. And it was just, it's so cool to see what God has done and is continuing to doing. Through.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, it also, when you said y'all have kind of looked at a couple of others too, that I think kind of tells you too, this isn't just an us. We're choosing where we're going thing, because otherwise you could have taken the very first step that was there. I've got one more question, and then we'll kind of move. I'll quit interrogating you. How about that? So you've gone to Fuge in the past, and one of the things I think you were talking about there that I noticed this summer at Fuge was you talked about you had played baseball, and that was a big part of your life, going to college and all doing that. I'd noticed that at Fuge, this was one of the things some of them had talked about, and I think sports ministry was using that injury that some of these kids have had, that instead of letting it tear you down and you just don't do anything about it, you find another calling in that. So tell me kind of your experiences that you've had at Fuge and all that good stuff, and how do you feel about Fuge since you've been a part of it a few years?
I love Fuge. So I worked Fuge for 3 summers in college. I was at Panama City Beach, and then Mississippi College, and Union University. So loved it. Just loved the locations, loved the place, the atmosphere of it. Fuge is just awesome. But I've been taking students for probably 12 years now before I started this. And because there's a few summers I did my own thing where I would go off to like St. George Island. They got a Christian retreat place, so I do my own youth stuff down there, which is really cool. But Fuge has always been a part of my life, even as going as a teen. It was one of those things like, oh, man, I want to be a staffer. And then you get in there, and it's just like, I'm so tired of being a staffer. This is, because the hours get to be so long. And, and there's a couple of summers, like, a couple of weeks there and a few years of it, your body's just so worn out, and you're tired. I was sick.
After
a couple of weeks,
after just a week, we were there as leaders. I was like, I'm ready to go home.
And see, like, it changes every summer too, because some locations, some of the students go home on Friday, so you have Saturday to kind of take off, Sunday to do stuff, and then you're back again Monday. A lot of the locations, they leave on Saturday.
That's how Union is. Yeah,
they leave Saturday, so they've only got Saturday night and Sunday. And then they're back out on Monday. And your Saturday night and your Sunday, you're washing clothes. You're trying to get your week together. You're redoing your Bible study rooms, things like that.
Everything.
And it's all that. But no, it's always been a great experience. I've always encouraged students. I've had a few of my own students go and work Fuge before for my student ministry and things. And, just getting to see them be a part of it. And then some of the speakers, getting to make relationships with them and see them come in. And, it's just, Fuge has always got a place for me. I love it. And, I hope it keeps going on. I don't want to ever stop, So, but I am kind of thankful well, as of right now, I say this. I'm kind of thankful I don't have to go back right now. I can take a break, but who knows? It may change.
Yeah. I think part of the reason I bring Fuge up, one, I think it's been meaningful for our youth group and a lot that have probably been watching and listening as well. But we're going to be kind of talking about community as we get deeper into this episode, and I think that's a good spot where not only our youth, but I'm sure plenty of other kids out there as well have kind of started to set that foundation of building a community within their youth group, but also outside, because I know we've had students that have still kept in contact with some of these kids that they met at Fuge. And I know we've had a couple that came on and they talked about it and they were like, hey, meet up here, and they were like, a bunch of people came even a year later in the next year. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. But that's getting to know Brother Derek a little bit as we get things started in here. So Noah, we got a random minute that you wanna jump us into real quick?
I believe we do.
All right, let's do it. I'll turn the volume up.
All right. So there's no timer on the clock today, and here's why. Because since it is the season finale, I have asked everyone to bring a random fact. So we're going to have 3 random facts from each person. Or just one random fact from each person.
Yeah, there we go.
Unless you have extra.
I've got 15. I need another minute. No.
But that'll give us a little bit more time to discuss the importance of what we're learning today.
Okay, all right.
So here's random fact number 1. Did you know that sea otters hold hands while they're sleeping to keep from drifting apart in the water? They form rafts of otters, and sometimes these groups can be made up of hundreds of otters floating together.
I didn't know that either, but I feel like I've seen like a video of them like showing it, holding hands. I just thought they loved each other.
There's some a message in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your community.
All right. Hey, that's great. Now I wish I would have looked a little deeper into mine.
Mine's not even that
No,
good.
mine's just like honey ain't no good or something, or it never goes back. No, I'm just kidding. Well, there's Noah's random minute.
There you go.
Brother Derek, you want to go next with yours?
I just found mine. This was interesting too, because I guess, by the way, a random thing. Today's my daughter's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, 8th birthday.
Hang on, I've got a sound bit just for this.
Oh, there you go.
So if she listens back, there you go.
Hope you have a good birthday.
Happy birthday.
But she likes unicorns, so it just happens I found a fact. Even I don't think they're real. But this says that the unicorn is the national animal of Scotland.
Nice.
Did not know.
I wonder what in the world makes the unicorn the national.
I don't know. I was like, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so yeah, unicorn, the national animal of Scotland. Like,
so like the eagle is our national monument bird, animal. They're in Scotland. They're like unicorn. That's it.
It's like, but I mean, do they have them out there? Are they real? Like, do they walk around?
Dress up horses with. Put a party hat on a horse.
Unicorn. The world may never know. They may never know. All right, that's a good one. All right, last one here. This one kind of racked my brain a little bit here. I'm trying to think of this. All right. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Let me complicate things here for you real quick. Think about this. A day is longer than a year on there. Now let me explain to you guys how this works. Venus, it takes longer for it to rotate once on its axis than it does to orbit the entire sun. So that's where you get that. A single day on Venus is about 243 Earth days. A single day on Venus, while a year is about 225 Earth days, so a little bit less. So literally, if you live there, which you can't because, you just can't. But anyways, if you live there, you'd have a birthday before the day was ever even over. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
I guess that's why they skipped that planet. Said, "No, we ain't looking for no place to live out there."
That's crazy. Have you ever seen Interstellar?
Yeah.
Where they go to that one planet and it's like a lot of time on.
Yeah.
Anyway. So
I've never seen that.
Never seen it. You miss it. Well, you're not missing out. Taylor would tell you that was such a dumb movie. I thought it was interesting, anyways.
It was neat,
yeah.
but yeah, there was some parts you're just like, okay.
Yeah, a little deeper than what I thought. So that was one of them. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Crazy stuff. Hey, that's your random one.
I'm so glad we got to give you guys
3 minutes.
those just facts you needed to know that.
There you go. All right. That's crazy, man. I saw another one about a jellyfish, but I didn't want to go through that one. I did have I've got a whole page here that's got 8 or 9 of them on there, but I was like, we're just not going to go through all 8 or 9 of those right there. All right. You got any other questions that you want to ask before, or do you have anything you want to talk about before we get in? Have you had any kind of crazy stories in your move to Georgia so far? I say to Georgia, you lived here. In your move to First Baptist Camilla so far?
No, not really. It's actually been pretty smooth going.
Nice.
We're not fully unpacked with everything yet, but I got a place to sleep and place to sit and place to eat, so I'm good to
That's good stuff. Half of it is, all right, somewhere to sleep. It's not raining on my head, and I got a kitchen. We can make things happen in there.
That's right.
All right, well, let's jump right into it, Noah. Let's do it.
We fixing to raise the. We fixing to raise the.
All right, let's raise the meter real quick. You're not the first guest to be like this. Don't put it on me.
It's like, don't put the preacher out there dancing.
Don't do that. Anyways, all right, let's get into it. So this week's topic is going to be impacting our community, and we can look at this in a bunch of different ways. But Noah, I want you to kind of start us off with just this topic.
Sure thing. Well, it's kind of cool how, even with the message this morning, Brother Derek spoke a lot about impacting our community, how us as the church were called to live out the love of Christ to our community, to those around us, whether it be work, whether it be, whatever we're at, a football game, or even if it's going to different places inside the community that need help. We've seen a lot of that, kind of people being the hands and feet of Christ after Hurricane Helene came through. We've seen a lot, a lot of that. But a lot, kind of the focus for today as we talk is just how can we as a church impact our community here in Camilla. You see throughout the book of Acts and stuff a lot of Paul and his ministry and the things he does, and you even preached a lot on that today. So just kind of how we want to start this off, maybe kind of setting up this topic of conversation as how can we be and how can we have that impact on our community here in Camilla?
Yeah. It's a great topic to talk about, especially, when y'all were talking about the topic we were going to be talking about. I think I messaged y'all. I said, man, that's kind of my vision thing for next year.
Yeah.
I'm really pushing that, we have a great church. Don't get me wrong. I love this church, but I want to be that church that's not just a building that stands there, that we're serving anybody and anybody that comes, any and everybody. And so there's opportunities to do it. I mentioned it this morning in my sermon. We've got Panama, which is great, fantastic. I love that. But there's a need outside here in the community. And you go throughout Scripture and you see where Jesus, he didn't just wait for opportunities. He made opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I'm not claiming we're Jesus. I'm not saying that. But there's opportunities there that we can seek out and find. In everyday life, people we encounter, opportunities come up. Even like today, I got done preaching, and I, jokingly a few minutes ago, I had the opportunity to actually put forth what I just preached. We had somebody coming in need, and just being that vessel for them, just helping them. We got a chance to pray with the person, gave them a Bible, got to just encourage them. Hey, we're helping give you a place, some food, some things like that. The physical. But come back and experience the spiritual. Yeah. Come back and come to Bible study, come to worship. We'd love to see you and be a part of that. But, other things that I think, and this is just God, guys, I just think it's fantastic, is that people are coming to us, wanting us to help.
Yeah.
I know y'all do the food distribution throughout here, and we're talking about ways of making that even better, where we can get them to park and come in, and as they're filling out, we can have one-on-one conversations. We can talk, we can minister, we can pray with, we can give materials to, things like that. But we got a facility here in Camilla that is wanting us on Sunday afternoons or evenings, whatever we can do, and partner with other churches to come over and just do something. Music of worship, some Bible study things for children, some adult Bible study, just opportunities of where we're being able to get the gospel out there. And a lot of places don't have that. A lot of places they turn that away, and they're just like, well, no, because you're the church. And the church is, the sad part is the church has gotten that. I don't remember what the word is right now, but that mentality about them is just like, well, no, you're the church. you're not, I'm not going to follow what you say because a lot of people say is it's the legalism side of it, and it's not. God says just simply go, share, love, have compassion. I think the downfall that we've had in a lot of times too is that we don't make the relationships before we start the ministry.
Yeah.
We get in and again, we're just excited about it. We're like, hey man, this place is available. We're wanting to go, but we don't make the relationships with the people first and find out, okay, well, what's your background? Why are you hurting? What's the scenario your family's in? Why did your husband leave? Why are your child, things like that. And try to connect those dots and then say, hey, we're sorry that happened, but let me share this love of Christ with you. Let me show you this person that gave everything that he was for you, simply that you could have a relationship with him and have eternity with him. And a lot of people don't get that. They don't get that understanding. It's like, well, no, your God has these rules. No, he puts these things. Again, I used the example a couple weeks ago, I think with our adults, the same reason, and we don't like it. We don't like the word discipline. We don't. Because we don't ever feel like we do anything wrong. We don't like that.
Are you saying we're not perfect?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But God, to discipline us is to love us.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my kids. When my kids mess up, if I discipline them or put them in timeout or do whatever, it's because I want them to learn and to be loved through that, And the more and more I'm getting older and things like that, I've seen that more, and having my own kids, I'm sure and you'll get there one day. But it's more and more, it makes sense of those things. This is what my parents were talking about. This is what God had instilled for us. These are these things. But just having a heart for the community, and doing it in a way that's, again, it's not beating them over the head with the Bible. It's caring for them, truly caring for them, and where they're at. Because again, I mentioned it this morning, we all come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have different areas and things that we're dealing with. So everyone's story is going to be different. And the one consistent thing that I think is the greatest about it is the fact, even though all of our stories are different, we have one person we can call on who's always going to be there.
Yeah. And
that is, like, to me, the most incredible aspect of Christ. He's there. He's available. As I was thinking about this too, as I mentioned it earlier, I was like, God or Jesus was always out finding people. He's outside the city gates, waiting as people would exit out of the city of David, and he was, going and seeing people. He went to Nicodemus's house, or Zacharias' house. He, met with Nicodemus. He did all these things, and I noticed that one time, or there may be a few times he was at a church, but that one time he was at the church, the temple. Man, that man is throwing tables and tables. He is slinging stuff. It's like, because they weren't doing it right. They were taking God out of the picture and doing their self thing. So there's a call for it. There really is. But
I some of what you were kind of talking about this morning, you mentioned it there too, is everybody's coming from a different place. And we've talked about this on the podcast too, that I love about our youth group is not only our group, but also us as leaders. We're all in different phases of life. We've all been raised differently. We've all come up differently, and we're all just doing different things. And sometimes can it be difficult? Yes, but most of the time it's a good thing, because we bring different perspectives that we can say, hey, I relate with you. I understand what you're going through, not because I want to go through the same thing, but because I want to be able to tell you, hey, you're going to be okay,
right,
and being able to connect with somebody in that way, I think is very helpful. And you also kind of mentioned this morning too, which I love as well, is we're not just trying to fill a seat. We're not just trying to call in everybody just to come and sit here. What we would rather do is be able to actually connect with you and say, do we want you here? Absolutely. It's not that we're trying to push anybody away. Right. It's that we want to bring you in as a community and get to know you and see you every week, not just 1 week, so we can say, hey, we had 5,000 people here this week, instead of, we had 4,940. We're 60 below it. That's not what it was about, and I was glad to hear that too, but it's also, again, in the messages, we're trying to get it out. And like you talked about there too, most time Jesus wasn't just hanging out in the church, and I think that's another thing with our community too, to also as an outreach and say, hey, we're not trying to create a clique here that this is the only group of people who are allowed in this church. We want to make sure that it's also known outside of this church that we're not just these people. We want to be all people and accepting and open arms to anyone who wants to come in to build that community, because we want to live with you and show you, hey, like you said, we're not going to change your life, but I know a guy who can.
That's right.
And that's Jesus. And to be able to just share the gospel with them and say, you got to make the decision, but I can at least bring you in to give you the information that you need from it.
Yeah. So kind of as we were sitting here talking about this, the question kind of comes into my head, and maybe we can kind of answer all together. But what would you say, or how would you respond to the Christian who's maybe listening to this, or has listened to your sermon today, or somebody who maybe listens to this way down the road, and they're sitting there thinking, Brother Derek, Holden, Noah, I can't go. I don't have the PTO to go overseas and go on mission and try to reach a community in Panama, or I don't have the time to go and do things like this because I have a family for myself. How can we respond to that? Kind of pushback for.
Oh, well, that's a great question. I even kind of mentioned it this morning. Jesus specifically, when he tells his disciples about sharing the gospel. He talks about, in Judea, Jerusalem, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. That's not just locations he's talking about. If you go and you graphically look at those, it starts where they're from, then goes out and moves out and moves out. The biggest thing for me, I think, with that is, first and foremost, it starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself, if you've not experienced Christ, you need to get that right. Secondly, I think it goes into your family. If you're married, you have children, things like that, Christ needs to be the center of your family. It needs to be the center of your marriage. It needs to be the center of you being as a father to your children, a mother to your children, whatever it is. And then, you take it to your work. You take it to your community around you, neighbors, things like that. The mission field, again, that verse in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19, translations, some say therefore go, some say go therefore. But that whole phrase, therefore go, or go therefore, is talking about as you are going.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hey, pick up your stuff, let's move. It's as you're moving in life, wherever you're going, whoever you're coming in contact with, you share the love of Christ. You share that with them. And I think that's that scenario again that the church we've just gotten so wrong over the years, because we go, missions is great. You've got to go to the Philippines. It's like, no, missions is right here in our backyard. Yeah. And that's one thing Grants, Brother Chad, whatever y'all want to call him, the opportunity with this apartment complex is the fact, talking about Fuge, y'all have done the Centrifuge part. I don't know if you've done any of the Mission Fuge side of it, but I did Mission Fuge too. And so Mission Fuge, a little different from Centrifuge, just real quick. So they combine everybody up just like Centrifuge in different Bible study groups, except they go out in the community that they're at and they do outreach. That's what this location is like. They're going to apartment complexes that they would have gone at another city, place like that, but they're getting to do backyard Bible clubs. They're getting to do worship. They're getting to do Bible study. They're getting to do these types of things where they're reaching their community. And Chad and I are talking about it. To us, that's huge. That's like important. They're getting what the message of missions is without having to go to Panama, without having to go over. Again, none of those are bad. But we've got to get off this. You've got to go overseas and do it right here in your own backyard. Do it right here in your own community. But again, the problem goes back to, because people will start going back to Scripture. Well, Jesus says it's difficult for you to preach in your own, your own town. And he didn't say it was impossible though. Yeah. There are going to be difficulties. That was one thing, man. I grew up in Thomasville. I was ready to get out. Nothing against Thomasville. Listen for Thomasville. But a lot of people, you grow up there, you're ready to kind of get on, move out, and go, adventure the world, you would say, or whatever. And I get a call from a church in Cairo, just right across the street from Thomasville, and I'm thinking, Lord, this is, because I was, man, my last year of camp, I was ready to go to Arkansas. I was ready. There's a church out there. I was ready to go. It's like missions in Arkansas. Let's go, and Lord's like, no, I'm going to put you in Cairo. And I'm like, Cairo? Really? Like, all the way.
You mean like the Cairo it's not like right down the road?
Exactly. The one I just, I played ball against and stuff. Like, I got to go there, which, of course, got to have bigger plans. Met my wife there, my first kid there. Okay, got to have bigger plans. But then he takes us away, and then he puts us in Thomasville. And I'm like, of all the other places, like, come on, and now we're in Camilla. But that's the thing is, like, as I've done ministry and things and helping people out with this, it doesn't matter where you go, just make yourself available.
Yeah.
God can use you wherever. If it's in Thomasville, Cairo, your backyard, wherever you're living, Camilla here, wherever you're at, just be available. Just let him use you, just like he told his disciples. Just go and do, therefore. And as you're doing it, make disciples as you're going about it. It's just like that story. Chad brought it up at our baptism a couple weeks ago, the story of the Ethiopian man. Lord brought Philip to him. Ethiopian's listening to the scriptures or reading the scriptures out. He doesn't fully understand it. Philip runs up next to him and is like, "Hey, do you understand what you're reading?" And the guy's like, "No, how can I if somebody doesn't tell me?" And so they start talking, and then he's like, "Well, I believe in Jesus. There's a body of water. Why can't I be baptized?" He's like, "You can, you've believed in him. You trusted in him. I've told you, And then at that moment, Lord takes Philip away and moves him on somewhere else. It's just being available.
Yeah.
To do what God's called you to do, I think is the big part of what outreach and ministry is, it's great to have a facility. Let's get out of these walls. Let's go and serve.
Yeah.
Let's let the people see who we really are at heart. So,
and I kind of feel like that's one of the things, kind of hitting on what you were saying earlier. It might be one of the things us, not necessarily us as a church, but just the church as a whole has kind of gotten wrong on is that idea of being available. And it. I think to a certain degree, there might be a certain stereotype towards the church now to where those people in the communities and our communities, the people around us, see us as judgmental or pointing fingers and stuff. And we actually went to a Casting Crowns concert Friday night, and that was one of the things he talked about, the lead singer of Casting Crowns, right before they sang Jesus, Friend of Sinners, which is an amazing song. He talked about, how the election's coming up. There's big things coming up in our culture, things that are very divisive, yet the church has not been who they should be, loving and caring, meeting those spiritual and physical needs that the people around us need. And so hopefully that's something, us as a church can do for our community is be that love and be that care that they need.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up too. Like even though it's in your own backyard, because I think everybody, and you can speak to this. I don't want to speak for you too, Noah, but I think everybody, when you're growing up, it's always, I want to get out of this town.
Yeah.
I got bigger, better plans for myself other than being in Camilla, Georgia, or for me, Columbia, Alabama, or for you, Camilla. Everywhere we've talked about, we're all kind of like, I want to get out of here. But then God's like, no, I'm going to leave you right down the road. And it's that but God moment that, like you said, you might not realize it in the moment. That goes back to lean not on your own understanding, because it ain't about your understanding. It's God's plan that he's working on through this. One of the other things that I kind of took from this morning, and you were speaking on Galatians this morning, and I was like, I feel like this kind of fits too, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong in this, but because I would love to be corrected if I'm wrong instead of somebody just being like, yeah, man, you got it right.
Where's that clip?
Wrong. No, what wrong. You got it wrong. But anyways, I think another important factor in this for us in helping our community is not only what Noah was saying there, where a lot of people might look at the church and say, oh yeah, we kind of got this thing wrong that we're doing here, and they feel like, oh, they're just going to judge us instead of love us and everything like that. But I also think so many people have been taught incorrectly. We talk about false teaching and people that have given false narratives out there about who Jesus is and what it means to follow Jesus. And I think that's something also that we can use in trying to help our community as well, is not being the people who, you see out doing one thing on one day and then they're in church the next day. That makes things complicated for people in the community when they see you one way and then they see you another way, because they're like, okay, well, they say they're a Christian, well, I might be okay then, and it's like, no, we can't live these multiple different lifestyles like this. But I think that's another way we can kind of help our community as well, is to say, hey, this is what it means to follow Jesus. And it's not us being judgmental. It's us just trying to show you exactly what it is that the gospel says, and trying to correct some of the false narratives that have been created over time, just of culture kind of creeping into the church more than the church itself taking over and saying, no, this is what the church is. And I think that's just another thing we can kind of use as we move,
Well, you be over there preaching, man.
Well, literally, like in the middle. Sorry, I got to apologize, because in the middle of your preaching, as you're going through Galatians, I was like, I didn't write that down, so I'm over here. It looked like I was texting. I was like, I hope he ain't looking at me right now, but I'm just trying.
You're the one you throw the dodgeball at.
But I was.
Well, no,
that's what I was typing in.
Yeah,
was like,
even going back to that, people are like, because they'll tell you, they'll be like, well, the Bible's just old. My Bible doesn't relate now. Well, even talking about 3/4 of the Old Testament is about false teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, the New Testament. You go through and you read that and you see the old false teachers that are in there. If you look at our society today, there's a ton of false teachers out there right now,
everywhere.
and it goes back to what you're talking about with that conflict of, well, they said that I'm okay. Well, they haven't told you the truth though. They're getting, if you ever listen to Vody Baucham is top notch. Go listen to him. Paul Washer too. He's good too. But Vody Baucham, he'll say it, there's a preacher down his way, Smiling Joel is what they call it, but he's one of those, he doesn't preach on sin. He basically tells everybody that they're good people, and they're not.
What's the scripture passage about they say things that tickle your ears or something like that?
And go through that. And, just exactly like that. And there's other, I'm not going to say the church, but Church of California today, their apostle, which is false, proclaimed the other day that when God created Adam, he was male and female. It's false things that are being said, and the people don't know the truth. And so when we preach the truth, that's what makes my job more difficult. But when we preach the truth of it, and we go out in our communities and are trying to talk about what the Bible says, well, the truth that we have, just like Paul with these false teachers, the truth that he has contradicts everything these false teachers have been telling them. And they've been following them for so long, they can't determine what's true and what's false. And that just makes life so difficult. But again, it's that journey that, again, is not us. We stick to the truth. We stick to preaching the truth. We stick to studying the truth and telling the truth. God does the work.
Yeah.
The Spirit will move. The Spirit will guide. He will open the eyes to those that, for instance, I had a guy come in my office this week, and one of his child fell into the ways of the world, and she kept it a secret for a while, and then all of a sudden she came back and told them what she had done, but she had gotten convicted at a church service that she had gone to, and the Lord just completely changed her life.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, look, God still works miracles out. God still works in the lives of people. There's ways out for people through Christ if they just realize the truth of the message. And again, like I said this morning, the truth of the gospel will prevail. Even if destruction to this whole earth happens, some are still available. The truth of the gospel will still prevail. And that's the thing that gives me hope, is to know, Christ comes back or some catastrophe happens and a lot of us are out. The word of God's still going to come out somewhere.
Absolutely.
Somebody's still going, and it's like, Satan, you've lost. I don't even know why you keep trying. You've lost. It's like, it's already written. Just, but
I think that's also important too, for people that might be in a church somewhere and they're going, man, I'm just not getting the same thing. And it's not to make anybody be fearful of going to church. It's not to make you fearful of, man, what if I'm learning about the wrong things? Pick up the Bible, read it. That's why we say you got to read, because if there's anybody out there that's preaching, hey, I know the Bible says this, but we're going to kind of do this. You need to stop right there.
That's right. Well, and a lot of it's that prosperity stuff. They're like, hey, the Bible tells you you're supposed to have wealth. No, it doesn't. No, the Bible, if you read the Bible from the disciples, it says you're supposed to suffer.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have heartache. You're supposed to have pain, because then it's the reliance on God and not reliance on yourself and the things that you have.
Jesus even talks about he might not even have a place to sleep.
Right.
You don't have a place to lay your head or whatnot. So,
So
absolutely. Well, I think you got anything else you want to go through on it? I think we've kind of. I know we can be here till tomorrow with it.
That's what I told my wife. I said they better watch out asking a preacher coming in there. They'll never get out.
I know, but I think that's good. I think it's good encouragement for anybody that's watching or listening out there. If there's anything that you've heard today that you kind of question, you're curious about, you've got questions for either of us or any of us, send it in to us. Wherever they can send it in to us, Noah, and we'd be glad to talk to anybody out there. And First Baptist Camilla, you can Google it. Come on, any Sunday, Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, I think we kick off.
Yep.
Kids, it doesn't matter. Bring your kids, bring your wife, bring everybody. We're gonna have church.
Don't hide them, bring them.
That's right. So I think this is just good encouragement for anybody in the community, not only kind of learning how to build that community, but also how we can impact our community through stuff other than just just like what I'm forgetting what it is we do on every other Sunday, just about our drive-through out
Food
here.
distribution.
Thank you. My goodness, it completely pew right out of the brain. But anyways, I think it's a good episode to be able to kind of go through and talk about any of that. You got anything else you want to add to it before we hop out of it?
Appreciate y'all having me on here.
Oh
It's been
yeah,
fun.
we ain't done with you just yet.
Oh,
We're
man.
almost done with you. But all right, that's raising the meeting.
We fixing to raise the.
All right, I'm gonna make things complicated here at the end, you guys.
Oh,
dear.
goodness.
So,
I didn't sign off on this.
oh man, I probably should have checked with you first. My bad, brother. No, before we kind of get to where we're hopping out of here, because again, this is the end of the second season. If you just want to let everybody know one last time where they can listen to us, follow us, all the things. So if they want to reach out to us, they can do that, whether DM or.
We still have our email, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Still
So
got
they
it.
can still reach us there. What is it?
GrowingUpstairs@gmail.com.
There you go. Growing
I need to put it like in a little
gmail.com.
list. Maybe I can remember. Hey, Holden, in the future, put this on the screen.
Future Holden. But no, you can send us an email. We'd love to, you could even send us topics that you want to hear us talk about or cover, something like that. But you can definitely reach out to us, DM us on Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, those types of things.
Yeah, those will be the best.
TikTok, we're like we said earlier, on TikTok now. So reach out to us there if you like. But also still on YouTube. You can leave a comment on
Absolutely.
this video. Anything like that to kind of get the word out if you have questions or want us to talk about something specific. And you can still listen to us on podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Like I said earlier,
all the places.
we really appreciate you guys listening to us. It means a lot.
Does. You getting teary-eyed here at the end of the season too? By the way, one thing to just kind of keep in mind, make sure you subscribe to all these things because we might have a couple of bonus episodes that we'll put together with a couple of people we've been trying to get in contact with.
What
to
did
get
he
on.
say?
What did he say? But we've been trying to get in touch with a couple of guys to get on here as another episode, but it just, unfortunately, timing and schedule hasn't been really tough. It's just busy. It's a busy time of year. We've always talked about it. So that'll be something to kind of make sure you're subscribed to look and listen to. All right, so before we get out of here, normally do you have a dad joke that you want to throw on us right here?
No, my dad jokes are terrible.
No dad jokes? It's okay, mine are too, but I'll be telling them anyway. Evidently Noah had the worst one of season 2 possible. Sorry, I had to bring that back.
I don't tell jokes at all anymore. Only
the teacup one?
yeah.
And I listened back. He totally said what he was supposed to say.
I was about to make a joke, but it's okay. No. I was going to say the only joke I have right now is Florida State's football season.
Oh.
If
And
there's
I
that,
can
don't
say
have a
that
sound
because
bit
I'm a
for
Florida
that.
State fan.
You can do that. It was a wild day of football.
Go Commodores.
Yeah. Anchor down. Anyway, so normally though, right here is where I would tell you guys a dad joke to end it, but I'm completely changing the script for the last episode. I'll bring the dad joke back in season 3. But I have a question for you guys to kind of end it out. And this is somewhat on a more serious note because I think it also kind of dates back to what we're talking about in our community. And I heard this the other day. A preacher asked this, and I was like, I'm asking these guys on the podcast the same question. So this is it. If God showed up to you tonight and said yes, and you looked at him and said, to what? And he said, everything that you've prayed about over the last week, yes. How would your community look? Would it look any different? Or would anything change at all? Whatever those prayers may have been. Blessing over your food that you've eaten all week long. Prayers that FSU would beat Clemson, all of that. Whatever it could be, would your community be any different tomorrow? And this is where I've struggled with this, and I think we've talked a little bit to the youth about it, is we should have purpose in our prayer too for our community. If we're praying about, hey, we don't want to be a country divided anymore, something that we're continuously praying about. If we're praying that the people in our community who haven't heard the gospel, that they would be reached, are we praying about these things? Are we just saying we'll pray about them? Or are we just not praying about it at all, not even saying it? But I thought about this, and I was like, even with your friends at school, at work and all, are you praying for them too? And I think prayer can be such a big thing. And so many times we try to put prayer like on a back burner because we say, this prayer didn't come true. I prayed that and it doesn't come true. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
there's some, what's the old country song, unanswered prayers. Sometimes it's it's the way that it's supposed to be, is those unanswered prayers, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't pray.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a good way to end that. So what are we praying for? I think we should be intentional with our prayers, because again, if he came back and he said yes to all the prayers that you've said over the last week, what would happen? What would change in your life if you truly believe that when you're praying to God that he's listening and he hears you, because he is? I think that's very important for us to go out, pray for our community that are out there. I know we got the chance last week to go and sing some music for the youth in the community too down at Camp Crosspoint, and that was awesome, and we started praying for them then, and we've still been praying for them ever since. But continuing that, in our day-to-day lives, in our walk, is praying for our community, and that we wouldn't have that divisiveness, but we would all come together as one too. So I just kind of want to end on that, not only for us, but also anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching out there, to just be intentional with your prayer and know that we're praying for you. And we don't just mean that in the sense of, yeah, I'm praying for you, and then I go eat my sandwich and take a nap later, So that's kind of what I want to do. But I do want to say, hey, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe I'll get to come back.
Maybe so.
I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, it'd be good.
We'll talk about it. I'll talk to my guy about
There
it.
you go. There you go.
Talk
Yeah.
to your guy about
Give
it.
him my guy. We'll get it.
Yeah. So anyways, hey, appreciate you
been a-
guys listening,
Been a
watching.
fun season.
It has been a fun season. Flew by.
Sure
Not really.
did.
It feels like, dude, we started this thing, it feels like in March, and it's October.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We hope you guys. Hope you have.
Hope you guys have a good time.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Absolutely.
Holden, what do they need to keep doing?
Growing upstairs.
Peace.